and finding one that you know what's wrong with it, and what's right with it. This is a good truck, the transmission's good and solid, the chassis, the body, everything else is good on it. So
The engine's unhealthy.
the engine needs work, yes. It came, when we got it, when they opened it up, it took them 40 hours to get the engine out.
Judsters.
Yes, because it was right in the very dead center of that truck. And so they've got the engine out. The radiator was junk. It's seen its day. So when we get this back together, that's with the new radiator, with the new turbo, with the everything.
But you're gonna have still the same old engine that you can't get parts for.
Oh, we can get parts for them. Not a problem getting parts for them.
I understood that engine was obsolete and was difficult getting new parts.
No, you can get parts for them. There's not a problem getting parts. You can't get a reman engine.
Kirby, on an issue, we're talking about a truck, but I don't know anything other than that. What are we talking about?
It's our rescue truck. It goes to all calls, city and rural. So actually, the city's portion will be 16,000, plus or minus, right in there. But it goes to all calls, city, rural. It's got the jaws on it. It's got our replacement models for all of our air packs, and it's got a big generator, big light plant on it.
What year is it?
It is a
69.
no, it's like a 1990.
This is when we got off the East Coast.
Yes. I believe it's a 90.
So it's give or take 30 years old?
Yes, it is a 1990.
Okay.
Yeah.
And who manufactured it?
It's a Spartan chassis, Spartan cab, and like I said, it's got the stainless steel body on it. Actually has capability of holding 6 or 7 passengers in the back, and then there's four people in the back seat that are packed up, or that have the ability to be packed up before we get on the scene. And it's got a hydraulic system set up on it. You can actually got a dual hydraulic system, so we can run 2 sets of jaws of life at the same time. You know, the power plant, the generator would, if we were to replace it with a new one, we'd just guessing, we're probably 250,000 plus.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask you that, I must have misunderstood. You quoted a replacement figure of 60 to 65.
A used one.
A used
The same as what
year.
we've got, yes, and we don't know what it is. That's the thing. This one, we know what we have. It's been DOT'd. It'll be new. When it gets back, it'll be DOT'd again for this year. And we know the truck. That's the big thing.
Who's doing the work on this stuff?
Interstate Power Systems out of Billings. This is the first time that we've had any issues with this truck. The other one was the Hammett. That's the district's truck. And they are being pretty good to us because we've got two trucks there. The one is just the district truck. The R&R, the money per hour to pull the engine out is $110 an hour. They've cut it back from, I think it's 150 is their standard shop rate. The shop rate, what they're going to charge us for rebuilding the engine is 120 off of 150. So they did check the heads out. The heads did have no cracks. The heads were good. That saved us $5,000. So when they first came back with their first estimate, it was 39, and I think he must have heard me gasping for air through the phone because that was a little harsh. And then he come back after they got the heads magnafluxed, and it is the exact quote is 32,875. Like I said, that is with a new radiator, new turbocharger. one of the manifolds, it had a break on one of the corners of the manifold, so that was, $300 there.
So it's gas,
No, it's a diesel.
diesel,
Yep.
and speaking of what Councilman Han was talking about, as far as the engine, who makes the engine?
It's a Detroit.
Just what?
It's a Detroit.
Okay. And so are parts and new engines and everything available on that, or is it?
Not for a series, not for a 6V72, for 6V92. They are not, you can't find a reman for them, but the parts are readily available. That's what this company does. They are the Detroit people for the Northwest.
So they can give parts to rebuild what, the top end and bottom?
Everything, yep.
Okay. They can get them now, but what about 5-10 years from now?
Well, I guess that goes for anything. That's a question that I guess we have to look at in 5 or 10 years. It's hard to say what you can get parts for on the new stuff.
So our choice is basically to buy a new truck for $250 or to rebuild this one for $30.
It'll cost the city $16,000.
33 total.
33 total.
Yep, half of it district, half of it city.
Or door number 3, do we have a door number 3?
We can, I guess we could start looking for another truck.
Or used one?
Yes, if we could find it, if we could go start looking for a used truck. Find one, you know, I've been looking around, I haven't had a lot of success finding what we're looking for, what would fit for us. But there's a big thing also is getting this thing back up in service. We find a truck, we're gonna be realistically, by the time everything was done, if we find one, if I found a truck tonight, it'd probably take us 2 months to get it bought.
You said it had dual rescue hydraulics, or is all of that not leaking in good shape?
No, it's all in good shape.
It's a good shape.
Yep. This truck will be back up in service probably by mid-June if we get them, everything going forward.
Let's start the meeting again, or hearing, not meeting. Okay. Okay, I'll bring the meeting out of recess, or the hearing out of recess. At this time, we're looking to see if there's any public. I'm going to assume there's none. Nobody else that's entered the room, except Mr. Mike Reagan. Hello.
Not quite in yet, Mayor.
Not in yet, okay.
What's up?
Is there any calling for either pro or con on amending the budget? Second call from anybody wanting to give a comment, pro or con, on amending the budget for fiscal year 2019-20? Third and last call on amending the budget. They're having a comment on amending the budget. Okay, hearing no comment or any further comment on it, I will close the public hearing. Thank you. We'll start in what, 3 minutes, 2 minutes? 2 minutes.
You guys like it's cold outside.
It's gonna be, it's nice. Time of week here.
Hey, Rich.
Get the wind blowing and
Troy,
the rain mixed in with it. Yeah, a lot of large majority of the different series. No, I'm just hoping for good weather on Sunday.
Rich, when you talk during the meetings, you have the microphone sitting there. Yeah, use that. Here, guys, use that.
Okay.
Thanks. We want to make sure we get you on. And they can hear, we just can't hear them very well.
Can you hear us?
I'm talking the ones on Zoom. Can you guys hear us?
Who's on Zoom?
Huh? Matt Kenworthy on the top left, Russ is on the bottom right, and Chief Ederson's on the left, bottom left.
Guy looks like the chief's dressed up. Looks like he's.
I know he's actually put a uniform on instead of his, robe and slippers.
That's what it says in the ethics.
Better than pajamas.
Yeah, I heard stories from Alvarez about that.
Now, what we've got to do is we're going to have, I don't know if it's going to work. I'm worried about feedback. We tried to put a microphone on there, so the problem is that there's only one output or input. It's just one on the laptop. So we couldn't input and output to Zoom because it goes through the laptop for that. So right now we are putting from our speakers to them so they can hear everything going on, because last time they didn't hear as much. Remember they couldn't hear, but now we can't hear them as much. I mean, it's mainly coming out of the speakers of the laptop.
Ah, okay.
So
Next time we could Bluetooth a speaker onto the laptop, and then we can hear them.
yeah, that would be something to do. We could try that next time. We'll dig up a speaker.
I have
We
a
tried to
film.
do a microphone plug in, but boy, the feedback, as soon as somebody talks, it just went wild. So, okay. You ready?
I'm out of practice. It's been a few
It's
months.
been a while, yeah. Okay, I'll call the regular meeting of the city council for May 20th, 2020 to order. Oh, Don, lead us in a pledge.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First item on the agenda, minutes.
Move to approve.
Second.
The minutes are March 4th, public hearing, March 4th.
You're on. Oh, that's the minutes.
Gee whiz, I'm looking at the.
May 6th.
May 6th meeting. Sorry.
Looking at the wrong one.
It's been moved by Dan, seconded by Bill. Discussion on the minutes.
Call for question.
What was that?
I think it was one of the people in the Zoom.
They get the type
Oh.
there, the question.
Okay, question been called for. All those in favor of approving the May 6, 2020 regular meeting minutes of the city council, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. I take that as unanimous. Next item is petitions and communications. Last meeting, the discussion was what did RC&D do for Dillon, what are the programs they're doing, and so I called up and invited Joe to come down and
Where am I supposed to go?
you can go right there if you feel comfortable about it, but we will have
Thank
to
you.
borrow Rich. Can he borrow the microphone? And then we'll give it back to you once he's done, and hopefully it won't be a lot of,
And then, how much time do I have? What level of detail would you guys like?
council was the ones that invited you.
45 minutes.
Ooh, don't say 45.
So short. Keep it short.
Out of the room, out of the room.
Perfect. Well, thank you. I'm Joe Willar. I'm the executive director for Headwaters RC&D, and so we're the economic development organization that serves southwestern Montana. So Madison, Jefferson, Beaverhead, Powell, Granite, Butte, Silver Bow, and Anaconda Deer Lodge counties. We are an SBDC, which is Small Business Development Center, that provides one-on-one technical business support for entrepreneurs. We house the CRDC, Certified Regional Development Corporation, which thank you for your letter of support for that this winter. That was renewed through the state. We also house the Food Bank Development Center, which is ran by a Dillon boy, Eric Seidensticker. Actually the only person in our office that makes me look short. And we have a brownfields program as well. It does targeted brownfields assessments for redevelopment properties. So a great example here in town is the Johnson property right as you come into town. That's a brownfield site from the oil and the releases that have been on the ground there from the equipment. So I'll start with a high level overview of kind of what we have to offer and then go into details about what we've done recently down here and kind of the things we've been doing as a result of the COVID impact on the economy. So at the high level with the SBDC program, that's a lot of one-on-one technical business advice. So you can walk in our door and say, hey, I've always wanted to start a brewery. I really like making beer at home, but I don't know the first thing about going to a bank to get financing. We can walk you through that whole project through the time of developing the idea, getting your business plan together, getting your financials together, and getting you ready to go to the bank for commercial financing. If you don't have the equity to get the project done, or if there's something that holds up your commercial financing, we also have a loan office that specializes in gap financing. So our typical deal, we tend to partner with a bank. We don't compete with a bank. In fact, for the majority of our programs, you have to get a bank denial letter before we'll even let you access our funds. So we're no competition with local bankers, but we pick up that gap. So let's say you had a $1 million project, you needed $200,000 down to make the deal happen, you only had $100,000, we'd come in and pick up that $100,000. We take riskier positions, we take weak collateral positions with the ultimate goal of creating jobs and helping foster businesses and create a better economy. That being said, we're not a lender of last resort. We still go through the same process as a bank. We're just willing to take more risk knowing that that project's going to be good for your community. With our Food and Ag Development Center, we offer similar services to SBDC, but just for value-added ag businesses. When I started at Headwaters a little over 7 years ago, that's actually the program I ran. So any questions you have for that one, I know inside out, every which way. It's a lot of technical advice for people that are looking to manufacture food in a community. Ironically, Montana is very weak in that regard. We do an incredible job of raising great cattle and great egg products and barley and all sorts of things, and then we ship them out of state and they get processed elsewhere, and we lose all those dollars. It's probably the biggest economic opportunity Montana has, is to get more manufacturing that's processing food in our state so that those dollars and those jobs stay here. And at the highest level, that's what the Food and Ag Development Center is all about. We've gotten to do some incredibly fun projects. I know down here, the brewery was one that we worked on. We've worked with a variety of different producers, helped with the farmers market, things like that. And it's an awesome program, one that we're really excited to have. The brownfields thing, like I mentioned, is to provide funding to get phase 1 and phase 2 environmental assessments done for properties that have been impacted by petroleum as well as hazardous materials. So petroleum's pretty straightforward. You have an old gas station, something like that. We actually have funds that a developer could come in, access all our dollars, get the environmental assessment done so that that cost is covered, and then make their determination on whether or not they want to move forward with the project. So it provides a level of security to a developer. It helps them with the costs. It is a little slower than if you were just to pay for a phase 1, because we do have to run things by state DEQ as well as the EPA, but there's a significant amount of money that can be accessed for that. Your typical phase 1 and phase 2 runs around $40,000 to $50,000, and we can cover every last penny of that. On top of that, if it is a petroleum site that does have impacts over 25 gallons that have been released, then you're eligible for the state Petro Fund, which is up to $1 million of cleanup money to actually rehabilitate the site. And the money that we put into the project covers the down payment for that, so that you could get your site cleaned up potentially at little to no cost to the developer. So it really helps spurs projects along. I know down in Dillon you have them. Every community in the region we serve has some sort of underutilized property that is a brownfield site. A lot of them you don't even realize because you drive by them so often and you're like, oh yeah, I'm just used to seeing the old gas station, whatever. But once you get that redevelopment project done, it's like, holy cow, this is a brand new thing on a property that I didn't even really remember was there. So it's a really good, impactful program. And then along with that, we do a lot of grant writing, grant administration. So we've helped with the JC Park project down here, with the Main Street Improvement Project, a variety of different kind of more civil things. A lot of what Rayanne, who's our board member from down here, has. Her and I have a great relationship. She knows that I'll answer her phone any time of day, and I pay it back to her every once in a while. But we've been able to get some really good things done down here, which is something we're always really excited about. In terms of COVID response, so one of the things, we have been working remotely, and we're going to be working remotely through June 1st. In fact, this is the first public meeting I've been to in a long time, so it's really nice to see everybody in person again instead of a Zoom call. I'm a little zoomed out, but let me bring up our document here. With working from home, I don't have a functioning printer, so Mayor Clacken, I will email you what I'm about to rattle off so that you can share it digitally with everybody else.
Okay.
So this is all from the beginning of the year to current. When we were still doing in-person trainings, we actually offered a digital marketing social media training down here. We had to cancel it because of attendees. About 2 weeks later, we offered a similar training in Boulder, and I think 50% of the class was from Dillon and Beaverhead County. I have no idea why. We were laughing. It's like, we just offered one down there, but apparently everyone wanted to go for a drive, so who knows. And then we hosted the Next Gen meeting, which is a statewide initiative that MEDA, the Montana Economic Developers Association, is taking on to analyze and assess all of the state's economic development tools. So essentially everything that the Department of Commerce has to help recruit businesses to Montana, retain businesses in Montana, a lot of the programs that we operate with. We're doing a large study to see what's working, what could be improved. And when the consultant was out, they came to Butte and they came to Dillon and Anaconda, and those were the three communities within the region we took them so that they could get some on-the-ground experience in terms of what is being done and how things are working. So with COVID, we pivoted to virtual trainings, and we have been offering a swath of them. So I'll just read off the list here. We did small business survival tools and financing, retail and restaurant crisis response, health, fitness, and beauty crisis response. Obviously, those businesses were tremendously impacted through this. The business boosting marketing narrative, website design for small businesses, COVID-19 updates from Headwaters, Thrive When the World is Telling You to Survive, FFCRA, please do not ask me what that is for, I don't remember that one. Office hours with SBA and SBDC, so we actually had the state director, Brent Donnelly, for SBA on a call, so that business owners could ask questions about the PPP and the EIDL loans. Marketing your business online, small business guidance and local resources, Facebook Live planning for the future, another steps to thrive and survive COVID, women's meetup, pivot with your people, access to financial resources, and an economic impact community survey. And I'll send over the results for that as well. Last Wednesday, we hosted a call, a digital Zoom, where we went through the document. It shows what the survey responses were. None of it's too surprising. I mean, every business in our country has been impacted by this one way or another. Fortunately, a few of them have been positive, especially if you're in the tech space, but for the most part, it's been negative. And then in Beaverhead County, it's no surprise, tourism is an incredibly important sector down here. And the governor's announcement yesterday of removing the quarantine will help that significantly. But the tourism industry, in terms of our survey, was obviously significantly impacted. So in terms of direct business assistance, through a partnership with Northwestern Energy, we were able to do 20 small grants for $500 throughout the region. So we broke it up where each county was allocated 3 grants, so $1,500, 3 businesses. And then thanks to the support of the Beaverhead Development Corporation and a contribution, we did an additional 3 businesses. So we were able to do 6 $500 grants down here. Obviously, with the economic impact of COVID, $500 isn't a game changer for a lot of businesses, but it is a small gesture to be able to provide a level of support. And if it covers, a portion of rent or a couple power bills or a phone bill, it all adds up. We assisted clients with SBA loans, so the PPP and the EIDL. The number that I was provided was $32,000. Those are ones that we directly talked to that were able to provide that information. I know there was a significantly larger number of PPP and EIDL loans that were allocated to Beaverhead County, but those were just the ones we knew that we were directly involved in. We had 35 counseling hours down here in the first quarter, so that's one-on-one conversations with business owners. Typically, it would be our SBDC folks, our Food and Ag Development Center folks driving down here, sitting down with someone at their business and walking through things. With this number, it's a mix of phone calls, Zoom meetings, and in person. And that doesn't include, I know I had another 10 hours of talking to business owners that had concerns, especially at the beginning, were looking for assistance, looking for guidance on PPP and EIDL, as well as some of the other programs out there. I also came down and had a good in-depth brownfields conversation. We had set up a follow-up meeting and then COVID wiped it out, and our organization is largely pivoted to 100% retention. And what can we do to help keep our community strong? What can we help to do to keep our businesses strong? And that's where 95% of our effort is gone. We typically will be able to branch out and do a little bit more diverse things with business recruitment and marketing and some of those efforts. Right now it has all been, okay, we need to be able to help all of these businesses not only make it through COVID, but be stronger on the other side of it. And so that's what our last 3 months have been, is 100% that type of work. One of the items that we worked on was a marketing a new food and ag program with the University of Montana Western. We hosted community outreach with lenders throughout Dillon and the county. We met with stakeholders on the targeted brownfields project that I mentioned, as well as developed a new emergency loan application. So one of the programs that we administer, the micro loan program that's supported by the state, we would typically make a business go through the normal process, and that could be typically about a month from the time you walk into our door to when a complete application goes to committee. We worked with our board so that we could drastically reduce the wait time, and so they gave us an internal lending limit of $5,000 so that if you came in and gave us an application, our staff could just review it and make the loan instead of having to go to full committee. And in Beaverhead County, we did 2 of those loans that were favorable towards businesses as well. So we did 2% rate with 6 months deferred payments, and the ultimate goal was to just get some capital into a business owner's hands when all those bills are coming due and revenue had totally stopped. So we're actually, I think, anticipating having even better programs moving forward. We're going to be receiving some allocations from the EDA, Economic Development Agency, at the federal level that we'll be able to be a little more creative with. But given the tools we had at the time, that was the best we could do, and we were happy that it was able to be utilized. And I say Beaverhead County, but both of those were businesses right here in Dillon. And then yes, we hosted the community call last week, which was well attended. Had some good discussion. We'll probably be doing a follow-up one of those a month from now. And I'm happy to share I'll share the infographic from you as well when I email this stuff over.
Okay, thanks.
I'm sure that's a lot. I'm happy to answer any questions. It's unfortunate we haven't been able to physically drive down here much lately. That will return this summer. You'll see trainings down in town. We've been very cognizant of getting throughout the region. It's something we've always approached, and no one ever, it's an easy arm twist to get someone to drive down here. So happy to answer any questions anyone may have.
Okay, and keep the microphone, I'll just yell. First question, and I don't mean to discount your efforts in the last 3 months with COVID-19 at all. I asked you a question, but excluding that, over what period of time, what are the rough numbers of how many businesses you've helped in Dillon?
I could get us, we report to the state on those metrics, so I could get you a firm number in terms of actual conversations. Off the top of my head, around 50% of existing businesses in town. I know when I ran the food and ag program, we were talking to people regularly. Last year, the majority of the loans we did within the 7-county region was in Beaverhead County, with 50% of that, about $250,000 in Dillon, which helped sustain one of your guys' longest running operating businesses. And I hate to be, we're bound by confidentiality, so I always avoid sharing business names, but we're very active down here.
Do you have any rough numbers?
I can get back to you with I'm hesitant to say an exact number without knowing that I can look it up.
Second question, USTs for businesses that are no longer operating on those sites in Dillon, how many of those do we have?
USTs? What can you flesh that out for me?
Underground storage tanks.
Oh, okay. I don't know the exact number, but that's another one. That's where it gets really interesting with brownfields, is there's a lot of them that are known, but there's a lot of them that aren't known. And so that assessment, they'll actually come in, figure out what's actually down there. I know one of those sites we worked on that wasn't in Dillon, I mean, it was an old gas station. We thought for sure there'd be tanks down there. They did all the surveys and there was nothing down there but a bunch of rebar and concrete. And so I don't know how accurate of a number I could get you for that, because that's one of the purposes of the project.
Last question. You sound like a guy that's creative and sometimes has to think outside of the box. We have a white elephant out on the access to Interstate 15 that's been there for years and years and years. Do you have any ideas for, or have you ever been involved in brainstorming what can be done for that site?
With the building, we have been involved. It's certainly a challenging one because it is such a large building. We've sat in on several different conversations that have gone by with, potential for it. I'm sure everyone knows any of the potential large ventures that have looked at it. It certainly hasn't been one that we've had recent conversations about, but we have been involved with it. And in terms of creative new ideas, I don't have any off the top of my head because I'll be honest, with COVID, we've been so reactive versus proactive. It hasn't you're not alone in that. We haven't been able to be as proactive with those type of projects as we'd like, but we'll certainly run it right back up towards the top of the list as we get things a little better under control.
Eventually, something has to happen.
I agree. I mean, it's a beautiful building in a prime location. It's amazing to me it's not developed yet.
Any other questions?
I'm sure I should have a question. I was on the call earlier, or I think it was last Wednesday.
Yep.
So a lot of my questions were answered, but maybe one of the ones, well, I have two and I asked you these on the call. The first one is that in terms of the numbers, there's numbers of businesses that have called for advice, and they simply need somebody to sit down and talk through an issue, and then they're done. And they go forth and they solve the problem. And then there's other people, and I know I won't name them off, who need bridge loans, and they need a lot of help getting their businesses going. So there's two kinds of numbers. And one is kind of a softer number and one's a harder number. Are you able to get those two numbers to us? And also the amount of money that you have been able to provide, or assistance that you have been able to provide in the hard number?
Yes, yep, definitely.
And there's actually a middle number in there, and that's in your grant writing assistance.
Yes, and we track all those numbers as well. The CRDC program that I mentioned, we report back to the state on every one of those dollars if it's applied for and awarded. In terms of loan funds, we're right around $250,000 for the last 12 months down here. And then in terms of those technical business assistants, like you mentioned, whether it's a conversation to flesh out an idea or more of an in-depth one, as we're getting someone prepared to go get commercial financing, those numbers do vary a lot. They're all individually tracked as well. Throughout the region, our goal is right around, our mandated goal from the state is about 800 one-on-one hours a year for all 7 counties. And we hit or are right next to it every year. Last year, we were able to add staff because of the work we were doing a good job essentially, and the state allocated us some additional funding. They also adjusted our metric for hours, and it didn't time well with where we had to report. And so we were a little shy last year, but the years prior we've been spot on. This year we're going to blow it out of the water. I think in the last 3 months they've provided right in the neighborhood of 500 to 600 hours of one-on-one assistance.
And boy, all of those businesses are so grateful to Headwaters. The second question is, and it's the one I posed to you during the meeting. There's money set aside for municipalities, and I asked if there is any help for Dillon. One of the biggest things that our businesses are having trouble with is providing PPEs for their, not only for their employees, but for their customers and potential customers. And we just need to write some of those grants and get into the state storehouse of PPEs and get some of those down here. But we need some help.
We can help. I know I sat in on a call with the governor today, and I know they have 500,000 additional masks. They also have the cloth masks, and we have some good connections across the board up in Helena, and I'm happy to reach out and see what it takes to get some of that stuff down here. Yes, I was happy to be able to have a legitimate answer to that one after the question last week where I was like, I don't know, but I'll find out. And that, honestly, we're fortunate to have a staff that knows a ton, but we also have that connection as well where we fully recognize we don't know everything, but the odds are in our favor of knowing someone who does.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Joe?
Great.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you. Mayor Clacken has my information. If anyone has any questions afterwards, feel free to follow up. And it's great to be down here in person again. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think I'm going down here, so.
Okay.
More going on and have to go backstage, but for us, they can't be here, I'll be rushing.
Well, Russ is here, he's just not.
Well,
He's there. Oh.
Mr. Mayor, right here. And I'll give my 2 cents worth. It's on the railway trans. The English building, we did the management study in January. Local money, spent locally. Thanks, Joe.
Did everybody hear?
No.
What do you say, Stacy?
Couldn't hear it.
Could you repeat that, Russ?
The English family actually used the Brownsfield program for the English building because that was a gas station in the 40s and 50s.
That's right.
So you want a prime example? I'll throw that name out there.
He gave an example of somebody that used the Brownsfield.
Yes, English family.
Yeah.
He also thanked Joe Wellauer for coming down.
Okay. Okay, thank you. What we'll do is move in mayor's report. The first item is we have to approve several SOPs, standard operating procedures, I believe that's what they're called, correct, Chief?
Correct.
Okay,
Move to approve. Second.
been moved by Bill, seconded, let's take Russ, I heard Russ that time. What's happening here is, at the last training that we went to in last October, it was being told to us by mainly Angela of MMIA that we have to also now include police into, for personnel matter stuff. And that kind of got dropped until she said, well, you got till the end of May to get it done. So this is why it's here without going through the whole proper channel. The chief sent her all of the SOPs, and there was 3. That's the ones in front of you. I think there was 3, wasn't it, Jamie?
Yeah.
And we went through and did the changes she wanted to meet the criteria that then MMIA can accept it to then cover. And she sent back correct agreement that they meet the criteria. That was a yes.
Yes.
A shake of the head.
Yes, can you hear my head rattle?
Chief,
No
do you have
problem.
any heartburn on any of them?
You have any heartburn, Chief?
No, actually, I think pretty well. And actually, our SOP was based on the NMI loss policy anyway, so I think most of it was pretty simple.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Call for the question.
There are just, there are a couple little grammar things, but I can go over that tomorrow. Is that fine?
Or just,
Or do you want me to do it right now?
that's fine, so at least we know what we're voting on for sure.
Okay, so it's under political activity while on duty.
What's the number?
I wish there were page numbers, but there's not. So it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4,
What's the
5,
section
6, 7.
What's the section number?
Section 20.10.0. It's on page 7. And it would be the last sentence, which says, and I think what they wanted to say was, officers will, if you read the part above it, it probably should say here, officers will not be permitted to verbally solicit or promote any political cause or individual while on duty. And unfortunately, the "not" got deleted, and then there's a, but it should, I think it should say, officers will not be permitted. Yeah.
So under section 20.10.0, political activity on duty, last line should say, officers will not be permitted from verbally soliciting and promoting any political cause or individual while on duty. Any others?
Yeah.
And then Chief, on the next page, under 20.13.3, under the revised section, it was revised 5/15 of 2020. I think we just have 2 sentences that didn't get connected here at the bottom. And Mayor, you and Mr. Dolan are the wordsmiths, so you see that we have 2 sentences that don't kind of make sense here. Let me see, failure to submit to an alcohol or drug test will be grounds for disciplinary action, including, but not limited to, suspension and possible dismissal, period. Dillon Police Officers Association agreed, maybe it just needs to be added, agreed to this policy in February of 2020. It's Dillon Police Officers Association agreed February 2020. Doesn't make sense. It's kind of a subject and a verb without a predicate.
I think it just means it was presented to them and they approved it.
Approved.
It's just shorthand version of it.
Yeah, approved of the policy. So if we added the words Dillon Police Officers Capital Association agreed to this policy in February of 2020. February, 2020.
Perhaps it should be revision and not policy, though, we're in the revised section.
Oh, okay, agreed to this revision.
Okay,
I think that's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
any other changes anybody wants?
Yes.
Okay,
Just to clarify, several places in the standard conduct policy, the terms of police agreement and public, or to the police contract are used interchangeably. I would suggest maybe you just choose one or the other to keep things consistent. I think they mean the collective bargaining agreement is what I believe is intended.
so which one should be the best to use?
Where exactly are you referring?
All over.
Well, let's see, 21.4.0.
Travis was trying to answer.
I think that, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I think if you use CBA in there, as a collective bargaining agreement, that's probably the best.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's the way to go, so.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I have a quick question.
Yep.
The second to last page, 21, dot 1, dot C, the reply, water A. Middle of that paragraph, there's a section that says revised 51520, 21.c.0, appeal of disciplinary action. And then it says repeal / remove. Does that mean that the section right below it, where it talks about disciplinary action initiated by the chief of police or the assistant chief can be appealed to the mayor, does that mean that section has been repealed or removed?
Yes.
Okay.
We removed that mainly because it's in the CBA, collective bargaining. So the procedure
I don't
was,
have a problem with it, I was just wanting to make sure I understood what was repealed and removed.
right, it was that full paragraph.
Okay, all right, perfect, thank you.
Any other questions?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes?
section 2016.0. Your numbering is off. Section 1, section 2, section 3, section 4, section 4.
Yeah, section 5, yeah, got it.
Yeah.
Thank you. We had 2 4s in there. Any others?
Call for the question.
Question's been called for to approve these 3 SOP for the police, and they mainly covers personnel matters. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Hmm?
As revised.
As revised, correct, excuse me, as revised. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Okay, I take that as unanimous. Okay. What's he saying now? He ain't gonna turn it up, he's really blowing us out.
I know, he tried.
I just wanted to thank the mayor and Jamie for helping me out on that.
Oh, thank you, Janie.
You're welcome.
Okay, next item, citizens' request. So we'll just pause for a little bit right here to let everybody kind of glance over, just jump in if you have a question. And when it seems like questions are done, we'll move on.
Mr. Mayor, I do have a question. As I look down through this, it looks like 2 months worth, between March, first and April. I see 8 things for animal control, 4 of which have been addressed and 4 of which are listed as not yet. Is there a problem within animal control that we need to take a look at?
Oh, you want to answer that, Todd, or?
No, I don't think there is. It's just one of those, it's kind of weird.
I know.
Sorry.
That's fine. It's one of those that I didn't have a chance to visit with him to see if he had done these before this went out. In fact, he was gone Monday. But he addresses all these issues when he's notified of them. And sometimes in these cases, a lot of times, when he goes to investigate them, the dog's gone, or the dog's quiet, and then he'll visit with the owners and just let them know that there's been a complaint filed.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Mr. Mayor, I do like item 11021, the description on the second page, the possible solution to the issue.
What number are you?
11021, second page bottom.
I think the third page is you're looking at, right, Joe, on the bottom, and you on
Oh,
top
but
of the next page.
okay, the house and,
The deer ran off.
Yeah, the dead deer got up and ran off.
what do you think happened to the dead deer?
The bear was good eating.
Another animal?
It also might be limited on how long was it there. Could have got skinned and ate.
Sure that wasn't on Lazarus Street or something?
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, we're moving on then. Thank you. Reports of officers and boards of the city, library board. If we can hear maybe Matt's. Do you have minutes in here?
I'll try and shout, hopefully you can hear me. In your package, you'll see the minutes from February 27th. I asked for your approval.
Move to approve. Second.
It's been moved by Dan, seconded by Bill. Discussion?
Oh,
Seeing as how I don't have a view of everyone in the audience, is Lori later in attendance?
No, she's not.
Okay. If there are any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. However, I will preface it by saying, shortly after this meeting and these minutes, virtually everything has changed because of COVID-19. We did have a meeting on April 29th, but I don't see those minutes in this agenda. But aside from the financials, virtually everything else is, the library shut down. We're in talks of starting to reopen and hope to have some more concrete details of how that's going to go at our next meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, in here, they talk a lot about the foundation and the repairs that are needed to the foundation, but what was going to be the cost of those repairs? And they were worried about getting the money.
That is an excellent question. I don't have all of those totals in front of me. That should be in the meeting minutes of April 29th. Also in that is information that pertains to Lori did an excellent job, and it appears that all of those costs, or the vast bulk of those costs, are going to be covered by a grant that has been approved. And I wish I could tell you more. I wish my memory was better than just 1 month old and be able to tell you, recite all of that. It simply is not. But the beginning of those projects is slated to begin the first phase in the month of June, if memory serves.
Mr. Mayor, it looked to me like in these minutes that those costs were approved through a supplemental grant to the Department of Commerce. But that has to go to the legislature. And I just wanted to mention to the library board it's always a good thing to have a round table with our legislators before they go off to Helena, so that they get on your bandwagon.
Agreed.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I've got a question for Matt. Matt, has the board done anything to look into the availability of the funds that were in the $2 trillion stimulus package for coronavirus? There were some funds in there for libraries. Has anybody looked at that and looked at whether or not there's some funds in the pending legislation?
Yes, Lori had briefly touched on that at the April 29th meeting. She was in talks or communication regarding it, but she had not gotten any finalized update at the last meeting. So, yes, the powers that be within the organization are aware of it, and they are working to try and secure some of those funds.
And I know she is working on it. She came in and talked to Jamie tonight. And I think she was hurrying up to get one out, wasn't she, if I remember right? So she is trying for them. I can't remember right now how much. But she was trying to get some money from that group.
That is correct.
Any other questions?
Call for the question.
Questions we call for to accept the February 27, 2020 meeting minutes of the library board. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. I take that as unanimous. Anything else, Matt?
No, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Next one, city attorney, Mr. Dillon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We've, on the criminal side of things, have continued to process cases. We're doing a lot more Zoom appearances, and I would foresee that will probably continue through June at this point. It seems like that's the general preference for the courts. In the Saxon civil case, the matter is still at the discovery phase. It appears that there are going to be some more, possibly some depositions being taken, I think is what's anticipated there. And other than that, I've been working on the Todd subdivision and I guess a water and sewer collection matter today.
And we will, for ones that want to know, we're shooting for next meeting to have the Mike Todd's thing on there. We're trying to get everything settled down and have an opinion at that point. And we have been working with Mike Todd on that.
Rick Carnes.
And Rick Carnes too,
Who
yeah.
represents you.
Yeah. Anything else? Any questions? Okay, move on. Planning board, Mr. Hand.
There was no minutes from our most recent meeting. The Mr. Todd affair has caused several consternations because we did violate city code doing what we did at the last meeting. So Mr. Dillon's been researching that to see what we can do to rectify the situation, especially it seems that Mr. Todd has lawyered up. So we need to be aware that our timelines, we violated them. Thank you.
Man, I don't think we have.
No.
You also cannot accept any information after the hearing to base your opinion on. So this handouts or handout last meeting cannot be used in your determination of whether to accept the variances or deny, according to the Dillon City Code. I just found out last night. So that's why I asked, I called Mr. Dillon earlier in the meeting to ask him to review that to see what we have to do to get back on track. Thank you.
Well, the way I understand it, And I don't know what the code says, but then the code's in violation of state code.
You're not allowed to table. You can accept, or reject. Tabling is not an option.
But you can always table a motion
Not when it's
or
brought
an
up-
item.
Not when it's brought up this way. For approval.
I'll have to look into that.
Yeah.
So, okay. But the part that you said that we couldn't take in any handouts,
That is correct.
and I don't believe that myself.
That was.
Because that means the public, anytime that they didn't want to come in front and speak, they want a handout, that always has to be let in as public comment.
With the hearing, but after the hearing, no further comments are allowed, according to the code.
Then that means, so when in the meeting that we'll have, when you guys make your decision at that point, you will not have any input from anybody, including the public at that point.
At that point, you have to base off the hearing data. That's written as I read it.
See, now I don't think that's true, because that means why would the public ever come in? If you can't take what and use some of the comments that they, or base your decision on what was said, then that just means we are not giving them a say in the matter.
But it also doesn't give you a chance to fact check.
Correct?
I don't know, I'm just saying what I noticed last night.
We'll look into that some more. For the next meeting, we'll have the rules, what is supposed to be done. Okay?
I'd just like to say something in response to that is, by reading those handouts, it has clarified things for me that wasn't clarified through the planning. The information that we got from planning, it just, things, that, you know, it says, environmental impact, none. There was no description, nothing stating, there was no,
Analysis?
yeah, I mean, that to me is not right, because then we weren't at the meetings, so we don't know for sure what was going on. There's 3 places on that it says none. Well, I wanted explanation. Well, those handouts helped me understand a lot of that.
But you do realize the handouts may have been extremely biased, one or the other. The report from the planner was supposed to be an equally balanced and fair assessment.
But it wasn't very clear on things. That's what I'm trying to say. If those reports were a little more clear to where we could understand what was being said or what you guys saw, then I think it would have helped with our decisions down the road.
So what you're saying is you want a longer report.
Well, yeah, and instead of just saying none, I want a little more clarity as to why there is none.
In the packet that Mr. Todd and Rick Hartz presented to us, that was addressed in there, and I don't know if we want to print it out entirely, because I mean, we're talking a booklet that.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is none doesn't do it for me.
Yeah. Okay.
It doesn't give me anything.
Mr. Mayor, mine is kind of on the same line as Dan's. I didn't understand that there was already an agreement on payment in lieu of a park, a designated park, and that agreement had already happened with the city. Maybe it's not signed off or something, but I hadn't, it just said none, or it said, we'll get to this, or you need to have this signed off, you know, I mean, it
It's
didn't-
listed under conditions that have to be met. He has to, what it said is that he has to finalize an agreement with the city of how he's going to address the park issue.
And somewhere, either in the materials that they handed out or in the discussion that night, I learned that an agreement had already been made.
No.
Whoever you're visiting with gave you false information.
Oh,
Because it
okay.
has to be platted first.
But there's been no agreement made.
Okay, then the developer led me astray. But there were.
Is that still, was still under discussion?
Mr. Mayor, to your point of the difference between you and Councilperson Hand, I agree. I don't believe those handouts from the interested parties are any different than any other input that would be given by the public. To say that they might be biased is no different than any other speaker that might be speaking to the issue. They might have a personal bias, probably would. I don't see the point.
Okay, what we'll do is, on that, we'll look in, Jim, we'll look into determine exactly what we're supposed to do and how to run it. We will try at this point to expand on the findings of fact.
Yeah, I'd like to just for
Truthfully, what the planning board puts out is only suggestions. It doesn't carry much weight until the council votes and hears and then decides. Then the council will make their own findings of fact. And that will happen as we go through the meeting. You guys can put conditions on or just approve it as is. You know, and you'll make your own findings of facts by making statements on what you believe is out there and how it is. And at the end, you either vote to approve with condition or deny. And then that's when it happens, signatures will go on. And during that time, that's the time that you will be speaking with the person on which way do you want to accept their park donation. He has several options. One is you pay money, the other way is you accept ground. And he still wasn't sure which way. Plus there's ways of calculating, and he would have to get an actual number on it. Now this was a while ago, you guys might have settled that now, on how much property would he have to give, or how much money would he have to give.
Yeah, we've talked about it, nothing specific of.
You know, but that's going to be on your guys. You will hear what the numbers is and then you vote if that's acceptable, or you can make a motion to accept it or not, and the developer can say, no, I'm not willing. That's the way I understand. Is that incorrect?
No, I think that's
Because
an accurate summary.
The final vote's when you guys actually talk with the developer and make an agreement with them. Your vote is the agreement with the developer.
And before it goes to final plat. This is just for preliminary plat.
But when you do, how the whole thing works is when you give preliminary plat, you're almost signing up, agreeing. When you do final plat, all you're doing is any conditions that you put on preliminary, if they're satisfied, I would highly recommend you vote to approve final. Because at that point, if you don't, you can't put any additional conditions on it at that point. Those have to be put on preliminary. And it pretty much has to be a negotiation with the developer. So.
The final plat just says he's met all the conditions.
That's right, and he can sell the properties then, yeah.
Well, I think in the future, if we have another one of these things, we shouldn't be so quick to table. We should actually have a discussion while everybody's here, as opposed to wait like we're now to the next meeting when there's nobody here to answer.
Well, it wasn't on here, I'll bet you they'll be back next week.
They'll be here in full.
Right.
Yeah.
It would have been nice if we could have
Can you pull the
discussed last
microphone
week.
closer,
Oh,
please?
I'm sorry. It was way loud a minute ago. I said, it would have been nice if we could have had a discussion with them last week. You know, if someone brings in papers, it should not be treated any different than someone standing at the thing. If they bring a book in that makes it impossible for you to read it that night, then that's their problem. If they want to come in and add something, they need to make sure they add it short enough that we can digest it at the meeting, rather than hoping we table it to go home. Their stuff they brought in should not be held any more weight than the public coming in and speaking at the podium. And we should have actually tried to digest it. If we couldn't digest it, then that was too bad on their part for not
doing it at the public hearings when they should have, because
Right.
we really should have discussed with them and voted the last meeting at the fact that the planning board brought forward. There should have been at least some opportunity to discuss it, not just as soon as they handed out, moved the table, and that ended the discussion point. Is all, anyway, that's all I got to say, I guess. We jumped the gun, I think.
Okay,
I'd like just real quick with Danny's comment about the none, is that it's, I guess I'm using the past practice, as that's from before my time, that's kind of how that was set up. But I appreciate the suggestion to add more information, because it is kind of hard to make a decision sometimes. When you look at the word none, okay, you have the questions, what possibly was discussed. And what we do at the planning meeting, and you're kind of familiar with it, is that we go through each one, and if there's any concerns listed, then I would list what the concerns are. And in those cases, if nothing's said, I use the word none.
Yeah, well,
So-
I mean, when I was on planning board, we didn't use the word none. We had an explanation
More
in
specific.
there as to why we came up with that.
Okay. So, yeah, no, I appreciate that, because whatever we can do to improve the help the decision-making processes.
And what I'm trying to say is, if I had more of that information, I may have changed my vote from the way I voted last week, or last council meeting.
Okay, no, but as I said, no, I appreciate the suggestion, we'll look at that. I'll just put no next time.
Thank you.
I'm trying to be a man of few words when it comes to those documents. But no, I appreciate the suggestion. Anything to do to improve the process is great.
Thank you.
okay, we move on. Okay. Zoning. Who wants it? I'm not gonna even choose today. Okay, must be Raymond.
This will be easy. Before you'll see we have no minutes. But we had a meeting last Tuesday, the Pioneer low-income housing development was approved by the zoning to move forward to their little endeavor, which is going to be still quite a few permits away. And then we discussed a little bit on starting the zoning up again, or, we got a couple areas of zone, but we kind of decided we needed to wait until the government got a little more opened up so we can have more people at our meeting there. So, other than that, we approved a couple of houses and sent back for clarification on a couple of schedules. And that,
And just for information, I was informed that zoning and planning kind of together has selected several properties that we should be annexing. I have the resolutions written, but Mr. Dillon has not had a chance to read them yet. I'd have him in Todd's hands, who's going through and verifying the information I put in there to make sure I didn't screw up on putting the wrong stuff. So then Mr. Dillon will get it, and you guys will get it. Mainly, first off, we just start to get an intent to have a public hearing on them. And so that's what the first thing will be, is resolution intent to have public hearings. And there's 4 of them I have that I have wrote up. It's used to be, who's it, Alberry has it now. Used to be Rhodes family, but now it's Alberry, I think, owns it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Used to be Duffy's, now it's John Grant. Next one is
Eric Hinojosa.
down there on Railroad, at the end of Railroads. And Dillon Implement. 2 of them, how do you pronounce the name? Hinojosa and Dillon Implement are being annexed because they are on water or sewer. One's sewer, one's water, so they're being annexed into that. And the other 2 are annexed in because they're wholly surrounded. So I'll just telling you guys, I am doing, it's kind of had other things going on. I am trying to catch up with you guys on that. So we can get rid of some of the areas on the map that's not in. So, okay, thank you, Rick.
That
Raymond?
concludes my report, unless someone has any questions. Russ can answer the questions.
Okay, Director of Operations, Mr. Hazebaker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's a busy time of the year for us. Just a quick report of Water Department is, well, we had a meeting yesterday morning with the engineer, Dillon engineers concerning the water main project, and the crew started the process of going out and marking it for them, for the surveyor to come and start preparing the maps and surveys for that project. We started that heavily this morning because they're looking at surveying it starting next week. They're going to use drones, so we're kind of curious to see how that works. Then also, what they've done, if you've seen the blue lines downtown, that's where the water lines run. They have to put in locates to help with the surveying there. So, Water Department's started that project. Streets, we were very lucky this year in that we're done Dura patching. We had the Dura patcher just for 2 weeks. Right off the bat, we had a plug. Took about 10 minutes to fix, and it was clear sailing that until last Friday when it rained. So we had 9 days of Dura patching. I don't think all the time I've been here that we've ever had such a good stretch. So in the past, we had to go a full month. By getting it done so quickly, the weather cooperating, we saved probably over $4,000 in rentals. So. Parks, getting everything up and going there. Nick's been working on the splash pad so that when we get to go ahead and get all the procedures finalized there, we'll be up and able to run. Then also cemetery, we've hired a summer crew, and they've been, all 4 of them for the last, this week, some last week, we're at the cemetery weed eating and getting it going. We have a situation with a pump. It's not working. We're trying to get that fixed. We've been lucky that it's been raining. And then the bus, Glenn's no longer a loner. He's got people riding the bus again. I think he had over 40 the other day. So he went from probably 4 one day to 40. Through this process, so he has friends again. So we'll be happy to answer any questions.
Now on the splash pad, we're planning on opening what, June 1st timeframe? After Memorial Day?
Yes. Well, looking at June 1st, so when the phase 2 starts.
Right. Now, on that, we're nervous. We're still not sure. With the governor's things, you're supposed to have 6 foot. And I got no clue on how you're going to keep all the little kids 6 feet away from each other. They're going to be running all over the place in there. Same thing with the playgrounds. So, I don't know.
So are pools allowed to be open in the phase 2?
Yes.
Are they? I didn't know what all the.
Well, they're open now.
Well, I know pools.
But you got to verify that they got to keep 6 foot and away. You got to have all that set up. How you do that with kids, I got no clue. It ain't gonna happen. Even if I had a lifeguard person down there, the whole day would be spent screaming at the kids, pulling them apart. Well, then the employee will not be 6 foot distance. So that's
One kid
the
at a
kicker.
time?
Hmm?
One kid at a time?
Sometimes, Mr. Mayor, you can just trust the caregivers and the moms and the dads that are down there with their kids. They have, I've been at the playground a ton of times and with moms who have spray bottles and wipes and, that playground is very clean.
So, I'm not saying we're not, I'm thinking we're gonna open it mainly because if we're all worried about COVID-19, really doesn't look like kids gotta worry about it. Even the scientific studies
that's not
coming
true.
out.
They've changed their mind on that now.
No, they're not. It's
Yes,
still
they
coming
have.
out on
They-
studies.
Mr. Mayor, may I ask a question of Attorney Dillon?
Sure.
Just use the microphone.
I'd like to, but the battery's just, well, maybe not. Mr. Dillon, what is the situation on municipalities in terms of post-COVID or during COVID? If they do make a mistake in policy or implementation operations as far as distancing, PPEs, whatever, can people allege that torts have happened and sue the city or what?
People can allege anything. I mean, this is sort
Is
of
it-
unprecedented. I don't know what
Do we
you're,
have any protection?
I'd have to look into what MMIA would cover in certain circumstances like that.
But we don't have any legislative protection today, right?
To my knowledge, other than the limits that are contained in the state statute for tort liability, that's about it. I mean, you'd still have to prove that we breached the duty of care if you sued on the negligence theory. And I'm not quite convinced that one knows what the actual duty or standard of care is when it seems to be changing every 3 to 5 hours. It seems like they come out with some other new information. So I think in order to hold somebody accountable for breaching the duty of care, a known duty of care, I would say that that's very difficult if it's so fluid. So, but I'm certainly happy to give MMIA a call and see what, I'm sure this is a question that's come up to the risk pool before, so, but I'm certainly happy to ask it.
But Congress or the legislature haven't passed anything yet?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I know that it's been discussed as far as the private sector goes, but as far as local governments go, county governments, state governments, I think somebody suggested bankruptcy was the option, but that's about the only thing I've heard.
I think, if I remember, it passed through the House in the $3 trillion one. That was giving them some protections, legal protections. But who knows what part of that's going to go through in the Senate, or if it'll make it through the president. And I don't believe, since we haven't even had a legislative meeting in Montana, I would strongly say, I don't think there's anything in Montana that will protect us off of that, of being sued due to somebody causing, because what we've done, somebody caught COVID-19.
Would be tough to prove where they got it at, I would suspect. in the case
And
of
that's the other problem too. Got to show causation.
Right. Now, they have showed in cases of adults, they're a little easier to keep track of their kids. So.
So at this point, it's still not sure if we're going to open or not. We're working towards we're going to, but
And we're working towards being prepared, so when it is officially, we can open it.
Well, if
instead
we
of-
open and do the same thing we've done everywhere else, hang a sign on the gate, say, please keep your children 6 feet apart. I think we've probably done all we can really realistically do. I mean, short of having babysitters down there, which I don't think that's gonna be feasible.
I don't believe it would be either.
I know on the news tonight that Stodden Park, the new water park in Butte, they opened up and they'll allow 2 shifts of 250 kids a shift. So there'd be 500 kids a day going through their water park. And they say it's safe because of the chlorination in the water. They aren't going to get sick because of that.
And it's probably true, but the rules the governor put down doesn't allow unless you can keep everybody 6 foot away.
And 50 people in one group.
Right. Well, in June, that's going to
Well,
change to 75.
I think
No, that's 50 in June.
Oh, 50, yeah,
Yeah.
sorry,
I
75%.
think the thing is there's enough room down there to keep everybody 6 feet apart. I don't think it's our responsibility to go down there and physically keep them 6 feet apart. Just like the park, you can open the park up and you have enough room for everybody to go down there, and they should know better, and their parents should know to keep them 6 feet apart. If the parents choose not to keep them 6 feet apart, if the rules go, I don't think that's our responsibility. I think if we hang a sign up down there that says, please observe 6 feet distancing, and just see what happens. I mean, do our best is all we can do. And really, if the park's open, the kids have got someplace to go, something to do.
In addition to the 6 foot sign, could we have on the sign, if we do some matrix, so if you had full kids, all of them 6 feet apart there, how many kids could you fit in there? And put on it, that's the maximum occupancy for the splash pad.
Well, but who's going to enforce it?
Well, again, put the sign up there and say, per Governor Bullock's resolution of 6 feet and half, whatever it is, this park's allowed to have this many people, please.
Okay, we'll work on the sign, we'll read in on MMIA's, what's covered there to get it done.
We could do musical chairs, put a kid at each unit, and play music, and then when it stops, they switch.
Make it a game.
Make it a game, if they're getting their exercise.
Get shot collars and put them around their arms. Too close.
And the kid that doesn't get the chair has to move out, and another kid comes in.
New one can come in.
New one comes in.
Waterproof shot collars after that would be.
I'm not recommending that.
Okay, strike that.
You guys are sick.
Any other questions or statements? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Police Department, Chief Giverson.
Hello, hear me okay?
Yep.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep. Go ahead.
Yeah? Okay. Thanks you guys. I'll try to get through this quickly here. And we probably have a hard time here. So, just a few things, things that are quite changing daily as our rules and regulations change. We're having some issues. There's a lot of questions that that are being asked of us that we really don't have the answer to as far as COVID-19. So we're trying to deal with that. We're having some issues with staffing due to the same thing. We're trying to follow rules and regulations ourselves that, I don't know, may seem a little I don't know, overboard, but that the risk of it running through our department is something we can't deal with. So Dale Stewart's been a lifesaver and pulling shifts, and Randy is transitioning back into the office. So I think that's going to help a little bit. She's a rock star, so she's been doing great anyways. I see there hasn't been any stoppage in her work or anything. If anything, she's probably working a little bit harder. Assistant Chief Alvarez has been great, doing her thing. So things look a little different, but they're getting done. So that's good. Natalie's still at the academy, doing well. Joel Stewart is going to be going to field training officer school, and then he'll take over the field training of our new officer who is starting June 1st, and that officer needs Kate Derry. You guys will get to see him on the first meeting in June. The canine training is done, and Officer Rumsey is going to be speaking tomorrow with all the officers and what he learned through the training and how it's going to affect our department and how we need to deal with the dog as well. I talked to the mayor a little bit, and we'll get policy and procedure and all that taken care of for you guys to look at, I believe, probably next meeting as well. I'm hoping. Alcohol policy was really well received by the officers. Everybody's excited about that and happy to show that we're doing our part to be open and see that our department's behind being accountable. We're dealing with some parking issues around town, as we always do, especially this time of the year. And other than that, entertain any questions.
Don't look like it, thanks. Now just lay back and Okay, next item, fire chief. Oh, we gotta fix that, it's not Darren. DJ Closey.
It says DJ, or it says Darren in the minutes also that we're just approved, so we'll have to fix that.
Well, but, yeah, you're right, because we did appoint him, then we had the rest of the meeting, because that's when he got appointed then, but.
No problem, guys. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In your packet, you'll find the city clerk's report of the joint project, City of Dillon Fire District 2. Ask you to approve that.
Move to approve.
Second.
How about both of them, the clerk
On both
report
of them,
and the expenditure? Okay, and Mary Jo seconded, correct? Okay, it's been moved by Bill, seconded by Mary Jo. Discussion?
Call for the question.
Question's been called for to approve the city clerk report for the fire hall for April 2020 and the budget versus expenditures for fire hall April 2020. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. I take that as unanimous.
Also for the month of April, we had 14 calls, 8 were city, 6 were district. Nothing earth shattering. There was some false alarms, some CO alarms, just typical things. Not a real high stressful month, so.
Well, that's good.
Yeah,
It is. Any questions for BJ?
How you coming on an engine for the truck?
They are working on it. We are going to repair it. Looks like the estimate came back for $33,000, which includes 40 hours for removal and just short of 40 hours, 30 to 40 hours for reinstallation, a new radiator, new turbo. It will be a brand new injectors, everything ready to go. And we are looking at having it back by the middle, I believe the middle of June, barring any unforeseen earthquakes or tornadoes or anything like that. So excited to have it back, because right now we have most of the stuff in a pickup and a trailer, which is not ideal, but it will suffice if we have an accident or a fire. We're protected, but to come into that thing, that first day of being the chief and have a catastrophic failure like that, and trying to work and figure out what to do with that truck and everything else, it's been, that there was enough stress in that one incident to last me for a year, so.
Do you still have the same capabilities as far as extraction and everything for equipment?
Yes, through the state, they actually had a trailer down here with extrication. It was their extrication training trailer, and they have given us full authorization to use that. Plus, we added a bunch of our own extrication things in there. We put some air bottles in there, all the chocks and everything else. So we are perfectly safe. We're able to stabilize. We're able to extricate. Our abilities have not dwindled because of your department. And I've asked people, I sent out a couple messages for people to help me clean out the extrication truck before it went to Billings. Within 20 minutes, I had 4 people to help me. So if you see any of the fire guys around, just thank them, because this puts extra stress on everybody. They've been coming down to the fire hall. They'll see my truck down there. They'll pull in. They'll ask if there's anything they can do. So with somebody down there, I see more cleanup going on, more coming, I guess, proactive things going on. So it has been really, really nice to see.
You deserve every compliment you can get. Do you still have that cutter from the 70s? 10 years ago, I was told it was the only one west of Mississippi or something.
Well, you never throw anything away, so I would imagine it's out there.
It was twice the PSI of everything else that was available. The A pillars, you could go through anything.
You could have, I think right now, A-pillars, you've got to know where to cut them, because the titanium and the boron and everything else they're putting in them now, you've really got to know where to cut, because you can stall out a set of extrication tools in a hurry if you cut the wrong
But
place.
you don't know if you've still been able to keep that piece of equipment out.
I would think so, but I don't know which piece you're talking about, but if you'd
It was
like
a cutter.
to come down, we could look at some point in time.
No, it's
You didn't offer your car for practice on.
you know, my old car, I might have.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. City clerk is not here. City treasurer, not here. Tree board, Mary Jo.
In your packets are the minutes from the April 7th meeting for your approval.
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved by Bill, seconded by Dan. Discussion?
Pretty much this meeting was a Zoom meeting, and we were, because of the COVID virus, we were redoing our work plan for the summer. And, you know, we thought we were gonna have to slow way down, and then the city was able to do an absolutely beautiful job, just magnificent job in taking out, removing all the rock mulch and all the trees and those overgrown evergreens that grow out onto the sidewalk on the southern part of Swenson Way. And, oh my gosh, I mean, we're just learning, right, Mayor?
Mm-hmm.
I think this second year, it's just gorgeous, and we're ready to go. All right, we have our trees and we're ready to plant. We're waiting for Allen Landscape to finish doing their work, and then they'll, after he finishes the sprinkler system, they will shoot in 3 inches of soil. That's Ari Miller does that. And then we'll go ahead and plant the trees, and then finally we'll put down the sod at the end. We thought that we probably wouldn't be able to get on that until August, and I believe that, well, you know, when Bill starts doing his work, it goes really quick. And it wouldn't surprise me if I get a call within the next week that we could start doing that work. And I think that we'll get it done within a week. So, so that's about what all these minutes are. We were just readjusting our work plans.
Call for the question.
Questions been called for to accept the April 7, 2020 meeting minutes of the tree board. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. We take that as unanimous. Anything else? Any questions? Okay, moving on. Reports of standing committees of the City Council, Judiciary. Mr. Knight, sorry.
No meeting, or no minutes. We did have a meeting yesterday, and we're just working on some ordinances, updating, and moving slowly.
Thank you. Finance Committee, Mr. Hand.
A meeting minutes, have a meeting coming up next week.
Yep. Fire and order, Mr. Schaefer.
No meeting, no report, but we will have a meeting Monday, probably, right?
Well, not Monday. Monday is a holiday.
Oh, it is,
Memorial
yeah.
Day. And not really sure, we don't really have anything on until we get, Mr. Dillon is meeting with the attorney. Their attorney, I can't remember her name.
No, Dinwiddie.
Okay,
Katie did.
so we're trying to get an agreement fixed up for you guys to then read, and it's not there yet. Because I believe that they're putting the city in some tough spots with it, the way it is. So it's got to be worked on and that. And so, and you did get a hold of her, correct? I'm talking to DJ.
Yes.
So she should be calling, I'm not sure if she's
I
called.
haven't had a call, so
Okay.
that's the only thing. We did send a letter last Thursday or Friday.
Okay.
So we'll work through that. As soon as we get that, then we'll have a joint meeting and we'll call it then.
Okay.
So, okay. Health and welfare, Mr. Schwant.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No meeting, no report. I'll see you on Thursday at 4 o'clock.
Yep,
Thank you.
thank you. Cemetery committee, Mr. Kenworthy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have no meeting and nothing to report.
Thank you. Parks committee, Ms. O'Rourke.
Yes, we will be meeting next week.
Okay. City Hall committee, Mr. Graham.
No meeting, no report.
Thank you. Street and alley committee, Mr. Nye.
Yes, before you, you have the minutes of May 14th. Ask for your approval.
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved by Bill, seconded by Don. Discussion?
If you have any questions, you gotta direct them to Dawn. I missed that one.
Call for the question.
Question's been called for to approve the May 14th, 2020 committee meeting minutes of the Street and Alley Committee. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Take that as unanimous. And about the only thing was the discussion on the street closure. And we're gonna shoot, because I still got things not next Monday, but the Monday after. June 1st will be the next meeting. That's the first Monday of the month. So we can get some other stuff done too, along with that.
Hopefully.
Anything else?
No, just I apologize for missing the meeting. I was on top of a roof and it looked like it was gonna rain and I needed to seal up the hole that I was working on.
No problem. Thank you. Water and Sewer Committee, Mr. Hand.
Before you have minutes from our water and sewer meeting from May 12th, I have some seconds.
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved by Bill, seconded by Dan. Discussion?
Call.
Question's been called for to approve May 12th, 2020 committee meeting minutes of the Water and Sewer Committee. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Take that as unanimous.
We have one action item report is to adjust the sewer bill for the Golden Bar to 11,000 gallons. They had apparently running a toilet or two, as it turned out. Going through quite a large jag of water there. But going forward, we'll have them adjust back to 11,000 gallons so we get actual numbers.
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved by Bill, seconded by Dan. Discussion?
What is the exact adjustment?
It's basically being cut in about 75%.
So from 11,000 to
It was 43,000.
No, it was, yeah, 43 to 11.
3?
Call for the question.
Question's been called for to approve the adjustment of the sewer bill for the Golden Bar from No, down to 11,000 gallons. All those in favor say aye.
Okay.
All those opposed say nay. I take that as unanimous. Anything else?
No, that completes my report, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, public comment on items of significant public interest not on the agenda within the jurisdiction of the city.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Moved by Dan, seconded by Don, if I remember here, to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Meeting adjourned.
15 minutes over.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh, I just